Hey, Changemakers. Welcome to podcast number 2 of The Best Version of Myself.
I'll be the best version of myself, spreading kindness and peace.
So today in our podcast number 2, I have one of my dearest friends, Katie Wiedemann. And Katie is one of my best friends, but not only that, she's one of my favorite human beings too.
Go on.
You are. I will. You are a fantastic redhead, a lover of life, and you make everyone around you feel seen and loved. You do. You have a special knack for that. You also, in your real-time job, you're the vice president of development at United Way of Dubuque. And you're also our board president of our nonprofit
hip, hip,
side
hooray.
of things,
Yep.
Mindful Minutes. And then you also are, and most importantly, the wife of Katie, or the wife of Jason, and the mother of 2 amazing children who are also both gingers.
We're everywhere trying to up
Yes.
the population.
Why not?
Yep.
Why? Yeah, why not? So Katie, welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate being here, Miss Molly.
I'm so honored to have you. And in my welcome, I talked about how and why you're here for the podcast, and that you're here because you're one of my favorite human beings, but you are living the best version of yourself every single day. And I watch it and I see it. Mm-hmm. And you make everybody feel like they're living the best version of themselves as well. And I appreciate and love that about you. And that's why we have been friends for 10 years.
We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary of friendship. Friendiversary.
Can you tell our listeners a little about how little Miss Katie Wiedemann became the best version of herself?
The funny thing is that you're using the word best. Let's just say better, maybe, in my world.
Oh, you are the best.
Well, I'm a lifelong learner, as many people are, and I'm constantly seeking self-improvement.
I love that.
Right?
I love that. It's so true.
And you're to blame for that too.
Well,
on a high level, I would say. Yeah, so I would say that over the past probably 10 years, coincidentally, that I've done a lot of self-improvement on my mental health, brain health, emotional intelligence, that kind of thing. And I think that's critical for all people. And what's so important is teaching it to your kids. So important.
And I can't wait to dig into the why with you, and we'll get into that later on in the podcast. But tell us a little bit about who you were, because I love how you love your parents.
Oh.
So tell me a little bit about where, how, what you grew up, and then your schooling and what you did. Tell the listeners a little bit about that.
Sometimes I look back at my childhood and feel like even a sense of guilt, because I feel like I've had a perfect childhood. Obviously not. I mean, everyone's had things in here and there. And my brother always talks about how we were under the poverty level there for a minute, but that doesn't really resonate with me. I look back and think, damn, I had 2 wonderful parents that love, my mom always says this, that love me and love each other. And there's so many people that don't have that. And I grew up very moderate income, but surrounded by really exceptional people. I mean, we had our neighbors were a huge influence. Our next door neighbors were a huge influence in my childhood. The O'Connor family, very, very special to me, and have influenced me quite a bit. All of them. There's so many of them. But raised at a great elementary school. I grew up in a Catholic school, and some of those people that I grew up with are still to this day some of my very best friends. And our parents are all interconnected, and I did cross country with these people, and I played softball with these people, and we all were in each other's weddings, and I've been really raised by a great tribe.
Yeah. Kudos to every single one of them, because they have brought you to be the person you are today and the person I love and adore.
Yeah, that's a good way to put that.
Of course.
And I feel like you're in a very similar situation.
Yes.
You know?
And I talk a lot about ACE scores, and I did in the last podcast, growing up, my ACE score was 0, and I know yours was very similar as well. But that still doesn't mean that we don't need the work of mindfulness in our lives.
And that's the ACE score, which the criteria is 18, right? For that, things that happen. Yeah.
Yes.
So I don't think anything horrible has ever happened directly to me, but in my previous line of work, I sure witnessed a lot of people's grief after something horrible happened to them.
So that's really what I want to really talk to you about, Katie, because you went to school at Coe College,
I
little
did.
hail to your university.
I love my Coe College.
And you studied media and news reporting, correct?
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm not a good student. I've never been a good student. I'm a C's get degrees kind of person, eke my way through. I was always kind of more the type of person who learned by doing, learned by experiences, learned by listening to other people. I'm still like that. You know, I actually had a degree. My degree was in sociology and communications. So I really didn't ever have any official journalism training, but I always knew that I wanted to be a news reporter. So I remember in 5th grade watching the news, and I remember seeing Bruce Owney talking about something. And I remember thinking to myself, I want to do that. I love everything about storytelling, about the TV portion of it, about being in the middle of everything, in the thick of it, and understanding perspectives and writing. I love to write. And so I knew I was probably, I would say that was 5th grade when I kind of realized that was what I wanted to do. And I just had a goal, and that's what I wanted to do. And it wasn't like I was driven. I was squirrely. I was very squirrely in high school and college.
I love that, though, when you talk about your squirrely years, because it's like, oh, those are the kids that I love to work with, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you do. And when I see kids like that too, I'm always like, there's a little mini me, little wild thing. I was never horrible. I wasn't. I was just mischievous and chatty, and
probably had the teachers wrapped around your finger. I'm guessing.
I would say there was a few. Yeah. There was a few that they'd shake their head and be like, "Oh, Katie," but I knew that they kind of liked it too. You know what I mean? I
they probably saw themselves in you.
Right.
They probably did.
Right, and they weren't bored. I never let anybody be bored. You know what I mean?
You don't.
Right. And that is one of my definitely big goals in my life, or a big thing is, we can talk about that more too, but making sure that people don't miss opportunities to have fun is, I think, like my job from the universe or God, or what do you always say? Gus. God, universe, spirit. So,
I learned that from my friend. I have to give kudos to her, to Dusty Swilla. Yeah.
And then Dusty passed it to you, who passed it to me, who I pass it to everybody.
Yes.
Which that's like my story of my life. Well, my friend Molly said. And so the Gus concept for me has really resonated. And I feel like my job from Gus is to make sure that people don't fall asleep and miss their life. And that they have...
Love that.
Right? And that they have permission to be their wildest, truest form of themselves. And I feel like that's why I get along with people so well, and why people like being around me is because I think I try to let people really let loose and have a good time and just be their real, true, honest self.
100%.
Who doesn't love that, you know?
I love that about you. And I think I'm probably falling more in love as a friend right now with you, because you just said all of that in one statement.
Again, go on.
Okay, yeah. I will, because I do want to talk and dig a little bit more into the news reporting.
Oh, yeah.
So,
you know what? That's another thing. I get sidetracked real easy. So do you.
That's why this podcast will probably be 2 hours long, right?
Yes.
Maybe it'll be 2 sections.
It'll be like Titanic length.
Yeah. Yeah. So you went to Coe College and graduated and got a job.
Yeah. So I had an internship actually while I was in college.
Okay.
Yeah. So I kind of talked my way in. My mom and myself talked my way into an internship at KCRG. It's a long story. I had spent a semester in New York City. I had an internship at a TV station there. I had this really interesting knack, or whatever you want to call it, for being in the right place at the right time. It still happens to me. It happened just yesterday that I can just be in the right place at the right time. Anyway, I was in New York City.
Listening to your intuition.
Right? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Maybe that's a more mindful way to put it, rather than just I
yes.
have dumb luck. So I was at a bar, I believe, in New York City, and started talking to this guy, and I was jokingly being like, "Oh yeah, I work at Fox News here in New York." And he's like, "Really? Oh, my best friend's the VP of sales. Do you know such and such?" And I was like, "Okay, no, not really. I don't really work there, but can you hook me up with an internship?" One thing led to another. it worked out.
I love that. I love that.
That was how I got my very first. I did the Fox News channel in New York City in the morning show. And that was my very first internship. That led to my mom meeting someone at a conference, and that led to my internship at KCRG. So I did that, and I continued staying on semester after semester. That's how I first got into it. And I really learned by watching Beth Malicki, Bruce Owney, Liz Mathis, all of the different reporters that worked there at the time. Those were, I learned by watching.
That is so wonderful. I always thought you studied it in college. So you learned about the intonation and like all you have to do just by watching.
I just mock people.
I love that.
Yeah. So the pace, that's how I learned it. But then you start to kind of catch those rhythms when you're doing it. And that's voicing. It was always my strong suit. I could shoot video, can't edit video. I could write, but I took a long time. So like I always had like all these things, but voicing things was always kind of that was what I was the best at.
And still to this day, you do it because you're our MC at our nonprofit yoga gala every year.
Yes, I love that event. Yes, that is fun. I know we're doing it again. You asked me about my news job.
I know. Let's talk about that. So when I met you 10 years ago, you were deep into being a news reporter at KCRG. And I remember seeing you paralyzed sometimes after very tragic events. And they really started to affect you over time, especially after having children, because I watched you have your children. And I want you to talk a little bit about how and why mindfulness really impacted you during that time, and just about your story of going through the hardships of being a news reporter.
So what's interesting about that is that when you are a reporter, not necessarily an anchor, so the anchors are the people behind the desk that you see on a nightly basis, and the reporters are the people out in the field. And that's what I did. I was here in the Dubuque station, and I was constantly covering the greater Dubuque area. And what that looked like was anytime anything would happen, I'd be the first one to respond to it. Or if there was something kind of issues going on or situations happening, good or bad, it was my job to seek those out, kind of get my pulse on the community and know what was going on, and bring that to my colleagues at the main station in Cedar Rapids and share with them what was going on. So a lot of times it was, typical things, debates about this or this issue. But like any other community, we had some serious tragedies. We had some major issues that popped up, horrible crimes, horrible things done
Fires.
Plane and that's crashes. The easy stuff because that's more natural. It's the horrible things that people did to each other. I mean, I was constantly in the middle of everybody's stuff. So there'd be a time where I'd go talk to a mom whose son was just murdered, and be sitting here crying with her in her living room, talking to me about her now dead son. And then the next day I'd be at the court hearing for the person who killed that person, and was intimately getting to know what's below that for the defendant. So what was good about it is I really, really learned how to look at all three sides of everything.
And I still
do that.
Yes, you do.
So that was like, I feel like that's that's kind of growing up to me. That was my early 20s into my late 30s. That felt like growing up to me. And I grew up being able to look at different perspectives. And I very much appreciate that skill for myself. But what's hard is when something horrible happens, as a reporter, it's your job, they kind of call it the core. So it's your job to get to the closest you possibly can to anything. So when you do that, let's use an example of a child who was murdered, because it's horrible, but it's very much happened. So the outside of the circle would be the police. The police are going to tell you who, what, where, when, not probably why, but the what happened, where it happened, how it happened, who's arrested, the facts. So that's who you're going to get on camera as the police talking about that. The next maybe inner circle is a neighbor or someone who lives nearby where it happened, someone who witnessed, something happening. Closer would be small family members. Maybe this is my cousin, or this is
like outside the main core.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
But the core is
Ooh.
the mom and dad.
Yeah.
And it was the goal was, can you get the mom? Can you get the mom? Can you get the mom?
And this was being chirped in your ear.
Always.
Or you just knew this was in your head that you need that. Okay.
Both. Yeah. It's common knowledge that the closer you can get to not just the victim, but the closer you can get to the people involved, including the exact people involved, that's the better story. And that's the thing, is that's what people want to see.
Yes, this is the world we are in this day and age.
Yeah.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's, you can fight it all you want. It's human nature. We want to see it. We want to see those horrible things. We want to see human reaction, good or bad. People love that.
And I remember watching you on the news those nights. That was back when I still watched the news.
Same.
And I would watch you and I'd see you just nail it on the news and just be amazing in your delivery. And then I would get the text messages or the side of the story from you later on about how you were crumbling inside because of it.
Right.
So can you talk a little bit about how that inner toggle was going on with you?
Sure. What's always been my defense mechanism, or how I've handled anything, is with humor. And that's always what I've kind of done, is like, you joke about it. And you probably hear like ER doctors joking around about, like, you make things real casual. And that's what we do in a newsroom too. You really kind of dial it back and make it so it's almost not really happening.
Yeah.
Like, you just kind of put your wall up.
Right.
But after I had kids, I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah.
Because you could relate too much. You could and not just about violence against children.
You got into the core.
Yeah. You became the core.
Yes.
And it was hard to be a parent, have that schedule where you're at the jump of a hat at all times, but also where you're getting in the dirty grittiness of everybody else's horrible. I saw people on their worst days of their lives. Whether it was a flood or a fire or a car accident or a death or a murder or anything else, any other kind of crime. That's when I got to know people, was on their worst day of their life. And I took a big pride in the fact that people would trust me. That was huge.
Right.
I feel like I earned that over the 14 years.
And you still have such beautiful relationships today because of it.
Sure. Yeah. Yes. And that helps me in my current role, but for me, what was hard was coming home to my kids every night and just being surrounded by all of that negativity. And the biggest problem for me is I never processed it.
Right.
So I'd be sitting there, the example again, I'd be sitting there with a mom in her living room talking to her about her recently murdered child.
Yes.
And I'd go home to my kids and be like, okay, it's bath time, or something like that, right? But I never took the time to be like, what did I think? What did I hear? What did I feel? What did I see? I never debriefed, never. In fact, the very next day, it was like, okay, what you got today? That's the mindset. That's the world of the news business. You move on to the next thing, and you don't take that time to really sit down and debrief and think through things. And that over time really started to weigh on me mentally, emotionally, all of that, because I sat with all that trauma. I would take on other people's trauma and never release it out.
Right.
So once I figured out ways to do that, it kind of became clear to me, I got to stop letting it come in. And I remember.
So your kids were your first line of making yourself into your best version.
Yeah.
Like it was the birth of your children.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
But I would say your parents were the first way of setting you up for success in this beautiful life that you have right now. And then now your children.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jason. But I heard you say that there were some techniques that you started to develop. Can you talk a little bit about those?
Well, a big one was yoga, for sure. Yeah. I always put yoga on as a physical, almost like a workout.
Yeah.
And it is. Until I really started figuring out the mindfulness portion of yoga.
Yeah.
That was huge for me. And it's always really hard for me to shavasana or to meditate, because my brain's always going every which way. But when I really figured out the breath work and the self-reflection, owning in sitting with things for a few minutes and really owning how you reacted to something, how you felt about something, how you responded.
How it's showing up in your body.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've had a lot of gut troubles
Yes.
and that kind of thing, and a lot of it is that,
Right.
you know.
Right. Name it to tame it, and then claim it. Where is it? You know?
Okay, tell me about the claim it.
I don't know. I just made that up.
Oh,
right
I love
now.
it.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're welcome. You can use it anytime.
I'm going to.
I do that a lot.
I say
and
name
then
it
you
to tame
say,
it to people all the time, right? I say a lot of Mollyisms, which I don't know if they're traditionally Molly or
I
if
probably just
you
made 'em up.
stole them from somebody else. Yeah.
Well, I do try to always give credit where credit's due. Like with Gus. I mean, I heard that
Totally.
from Dusty. I always try to give kudos to her, but I'm sure she'd give it to her teacher beyond her that gave it to her.
Sure.
So, you know,
Yeah.
pass it on. Pass on the love, right?
Yeah. So that I did finally leave the news business about 6 years ago. Lots of different reasons, and the hard thing for me about that is that was my entire goal. I told you since 5th grade, that's all I ever wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it was really, I had to work through that, like that loss of that identity.
Right.
Because that had really become like who I am. And I feel like I was searching for validation outside of myself a lot. Because I mean, do people stop you in the grocery store and tell you do a nice job?
Right.
You get that when you're in the news business.
Exactly.
And people kind of have this like, oh, I know you from TV thing.
Right.
That's 30 seconds of your day.
Yeah.
I mean, all the rest of the 8 hours of the day, you're grinding and you're hustling and you're doing all this technical work. And then there's that fun 30 seconds when you're on camera and people recognize you at the grocery store.
And
It's
it makes
fun.
it worth it.
Yeah,
You know?
it's fun. It
Ego
like,
is good.
Let's just call a spade here. That part of it's really fun.
Yeah.
But I was missing that part of it after I left the news business. And I felt like I was always just kind of like trying too hard sometimes to try to get people to laugh, to try to get attention, to try to get this and that. And I just realized, like, eventually through seeing a counselor, through working with friends,
Yes.
through talking things out, that it really has to come inward or you're not going to figure it out.
It's an inside job, and wherever you go, there you are. You know,
There she is again.
I know, but it's so true.
Right.
It really is. You know, wherever you go, there you are. I mean, you got to do the inside job. Otherwise, the next place you go, the inside job's going to follow you if you don't do the work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And
I
you've
know.
learned that the hard way too.
I know, but that's okay.
Right.
We all have our stories and we all have our hards, and everybody's hard is their own hard. There's no comparison, but we all have to do the
And
work.
we do that to each other. We do that to
Yes,
ourselves, I should
we
say.
do.
We think, okay, well, I think I even said something about that earlier. Like, well, I know other people didn't have it, had things way worse. That means that my bads aren't bad because other people had it worse.
Discrediting your hard. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
Well,
that's called.
So I want to talk a little bit about your favorite mindfulness technique. And I also know it's your mama's too, because
yes.
I love and adore your mom. She's a teacher. So how can I not love and adore her?
Retired
Retired teacher. Yeah. The best
Yeah.
type of teacher, but is called meta meditation. So you really, really love that. And your mom too.
I do,
And can you tell us, well, I probably should explain a little bit about what meta is.
Yeah.
So meta is the art of spreading love and kindness. So it's 4 phrases. You can do it anywhere at any time to anyone. So this is for you listeners, because Katie knows this, but she loves hearing it over and over again, I'm sure. But the 4 phrases are, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you feel loved, and may you be safe. And the first person that you meta is yourself. So you take it internal, like an inside job. So you say it to yourself first. So may I be happy. May I be healthy. May I feel loved. And may I be safe. So you do it to yourself first, because you got to do the inside work first in order to be the best version of yourself externally. And then you do it to someone that you love. So it might be a partner. It might be a child. It might be a parent. It might be a pet. But then you meta them with the you statements. May you be happy. And then the third part of meta is where you do the tough stuff, where you meta the people you don't like very much, or the people that may have made your life a little bit more difficult, or maybe the people that you met in the news business. And so meta is become one of your favorite types of mindfulness practice. So can you talk a little bit about that and why you love that so much?
I love it because my mom fell in love with it.
Yes. Okay.
So you taught, you were in her classroom, I believe,
Yes.
or one of your
Yeah.
staff was in her classroom, like towards the end, and she was done teaching. You know, I mean, that's how I think a lot of teachers get towards the end of their career. And gosh, we need to be supporting them so much more. I'm so glad that we do that.
I know.
You know,
Thank you.
yeah. So anyway, she picked that up, and she was going through just kind of a lot, and knew that there was some things that she needed to let go of so that she could be happier and more okay inside her own self. So I think that really, really resonated with her, and I needed that from her.
Oh,
so I think it was just a great familial thing. So especially the may you feel safe.
Yes.
That's the part that registers with me the most, because don't you think that a lot of people, what's below it is that they don't feel safe?
It is. It really, truly is, because, meditation is a recorded meditation anybody can listen to on all of our platforms. So if you go to Spotify, if you go to our website, it's free. Like, it's free everywhere. You can listen to our meditation. Mm-hmm. But the part that we talk about is that safety, and why, people often do things that hurt us are because they don't feel loved. They don't feel safe. They don't feel happy, and they just don't feel any of it. So they're going to do something to hurt instead.
Hurt people hurt people.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. Hurt people hurt people. So that is, the big reason that we do it. And
I share
first.
that
concept
dance. I share that concept with my kids often, because if there's something happening at school, or so-and-so is being mean to you or being mean to each other, it's like, what's below that?
Right.
I steal that Molly line all the time. And I try to figure, like, just this morning, my son was struggling because it's the second day of summer, and he's like, I don't want to be left home alone again.
Right.
And I'm like, come on, bud, you're 12. You get to watch TV all day. You win.
I want your life.
But I knew there was something below it. Like, what is it? And he just I don't even know if I have it figured out yet, but he needed structure, and he needed something to feel safe and normal. And my immediate reaction was, you're making me feel guilty. Why are you pushing this mom guilt on me? But I'm like, this isn't about me. That's about how he feels. He wasn't feeling safe. And so it's all about, like, just taking that moment to stop and think, why am I feeling this way? Checking in with yourself. Something I didn't do for 14 years. Right.
And we call that the pause, capital T, capital P. So in our book, Grow, we coined it.
Pause?
The pause. And we capitalize it like it's a noun, because it's that important. Like, that we need to take that pause, because that's the moment between our actions and our reactions. And it's that moment where mindfulness happens, the magic happens, the breath, the pause, the giving yourself, the 6 seconds, because that's all we need to change our thoughts, feelings, and emotions about something.
That made me want to just take a deep breath.
Yeah. To practice the pause.
The pause. I love that. And there's another Mollyism that I'm about to steal. Jot it down.
Go on.
Yeah. Now you're trying to beat me at my own game, huh?
I know. Should we talk a little bit about mindful minutes? Because, I mean, you are like one of the best human beings. You really are. And you are constantly improving yourself. You aren't the best version of yourself yet. Right. And we'll get to that when I talk to you about the core 4. Is we always have a mission statement in our life that keeps us moving forward towards continuing to be the best version of ourselves. But I love telling the stories of people and how they continue to hone themselves into being the best versions of themselves. And you have done that by not only leaving a career that you thought you'd do your entire life, to being something a little bit different, which is on the United Way, being a vice president at United Way, which is amazing. And I love working with you in that capacity too. And you're fantastic at fundraising.
Thank you.
But also through our nonprofit side of things at Challenge to Change, which we call Mindful Minutes. And that's where we leverage community resources to keep yoga, mindfulness, mindful education in schools, in facilities, in workplaces, so that people have access to all these preventative tools, so they can continue to practice them, so that when the hard days come, they're right there in their tool belt and they know how to use them, right? Yeah. Because we don't want to practice mindfulness when we're in our hard times. We want to practice it so when we come to those times, we have that muscle that's already there. So,
that's the hard part.
Yeah.
I feel like I hear all the things that I've learned from you and the things that I've learned throughout the years. And it's so easy to think of it preventatively, but it's in the moment.
Yes.
When it can be really hard to tell yourself you need to practice what you preach.
But it's just like a bicep curl. If you do it, eventually you're going to go from 5 pounds to 8 pounds to 10 pounds to 12 pounds to 20 pounds. And that muscle gets stronger and stronger and stronger.
Right.
And so you know when you're going to lift, your bicep knows what to do, your tricep knows what to do, and then the magic happens and the muscle grows. It's just like that with mindfulness.
Yeah.
It truly is. Yeah.
I hear you.
So thank you for being our board president.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It really is. It's really important to me that kids and students have access to this in schools. That's one portion of it.
Yeah.
But that employees have action to
Right.
it. Like we talked about teachers, that teachers have access to that everyone has access to learning those tools the same way you learn how to balance a checkbook, or the same way that you learn how to do math facts.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's really important. I want my kids to have that opportunity, but my kids have a mom that can teach them that.
Yes.
And that does teach them
Yes.
that. But not everybody's kids have that. So for my own kids, I want other kids to have that.
Yeah.
And I want kids everywhere to have that. I always think about what you say about the Dalai Lama's quote that's on the Challenge to Change wall. Will you say
Every
that?
8-year-old in the world had the practices of meditation. We would eliminate violence in 1 generation in our world. In 1 generation.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. That could be our world. Yeah.
That because like we all are trying to find the answer. They could fix this, and without getting into politics things, but everybody has an opinion on this topic and that topic, and this is how you need to fix this and fix this. And I'm like, what if we just got to it when they're young?
Right.
And give them these tools to self-regulate and meditate and reflect and all of that stuff. We would have so fewer problems if everyone had this access.
Right.
And were able to use these tools.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. I do want to not only thank you for being our board president, but also give you a moment to share your favorite experiences as the board president. And I think I know what it is, because I want to talk and circle back to your news reporting. You have a gift of gab and you have a gift of storytelling, and you have a gift of having this amazing voice, not only a singing voice, but a speaking voice.
Did you just tell me I'm a good singer?
You are an excellent karaoke singer and church singer, I'm sure.
Sure.
But I wanted to give you a little bit of time to talk about, the Yogala, the nonprofit event that we referred to a little bit at the beginning of the podcast.
What a cool event that is. I love that we came up with that.
Yeah.
First of all, that it's not a gala.
Yes.
It's not what everyone else has. It's not a stuffy dinner with a speaker. It is an experience.
I love that you coined that. It's an experience.
Yeah. We're there to experience what we're selling, if you will.
Yeah.
That what we're doing to change the world. We're letting people experience that at our event, as opposed to, and don't get me wrong, all that stuff is important.
Right.
But I love that, first of all, everybody wears yoga clothes.
Where can you go?
Right.
Where they say, do not dress up, please wear yoga pants.
Yes. and then I love that everybody comes in their cutest athleisure wear. Yeah. Because we're still here to party, Yeah. But we always have a good time at that, and we always raise a lot of money.
Yes,
and
we do.
We really get the message out. People really understand it. This year at the Yogala, we had a speaker from Senior, a student from Senior.
Awesome.
She was so good.
So impactful. Talk about an impactful speaker.
And she talked about the teacher that works in her brain health room.
Yes.
And the absolute change she has made. I mean, I was sobbing.
I was
sure
so
you
engaged.
Were sobbing. I mean, it felt like it all came full circle.
And you surprised me with that. I knew you were arranging an impact speaker, and you were, leveraging your resources to find that. And it was such a surprise because I had no idea the amazing job Kennedy was going to do.
She was awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I loved that she attributed it to her teacher. Yeah. And the thing is, we at Mindful Minutes provide the teacher with those skills as well. Yeah. You know, it's not just, we're giving this to kids. Right. It's a community change.
Yes.
It's a different way of thinking. It's a different way of learning. It's a different way of processing. And it's the relationship between teachers and students,
Yes. Yeah. And, we started out in this business of yoga and mindfulness. It's so funny to say a business of yoga and mindfulness, but we started out this is for kids. This is for kids. And that's where the teachers, like your mom, they were like, what about us? We need these techniques too. And now we're finding it's in the workplaces. They're like, what about us? And in the medical facilities, what about us? Like, but we all need it. We all need these practices.
And the thing is, that's awesome is that you're listening to that.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, yeah, that'd be cool. No, you're not just listening. You're doing.
I know. I'm such a doer. Some days I
love
think
that about you.
You've watched me do that over the years. You've watched me continue to be a doer. And you've also been a good voice of reason sometimes to me to not necessarily have an intervention, but might say, hey, so how are you feeling about that? And really evaluating that EQ iceberg, what's below that for Molly? Is it ego driven, or is it shame driven, or is it just something she really believes in and is passionate in? And you've called me on that, and I appreciate that as a friend.
Every time, girl.
Yeah, you're welcome. So let's talk about what I call the core four. We're getting to that part of the podcast.
Tell me more.
So in the core four, Katie, I ask 4 questions, and the 4 questions I ask every single person who comes on the podcast. And the core 4 really have to do with the name of the podcast, the best version of myself, and how you honed yourself into being the best version of yourself and continue to do that every day forward, because the 4th question is about how are you going to continue to make yourself better. But it's also about our philosophy and our mission at Challenge to Change. It's about personal empowerment. It's about raising your EQ. We call it your emotional IQ. And it's about living mindfulness every single day. So the first question that I have for you, and I know you're not one of our staff members and you haven't taken our personal empowerment class, but it's, what is your noble goal in life? So I want to give you just a little time to talk about it. And then if you want, I'll educate you a little bit on it.
I want you to, because here's the thing about goals and me. As I mentioned earlier, I always wanted to be a news reporter, and it was not like it was a smooth path, but I got that, and that was 24 years old, I think, not even 23 Amazing. Probably, when that happened. And so I did that forever, and then I never really have looked at like having a goal. This is what I want. This is the big thing that I want. This is the noble goal. I obviously jokingly refer to things all the time as, I got to get that done by 3:00. Yeah, it's my noble goal to have that done at 3:00. I just use your language. I don't mean it's my noble goal, but like, for me, I feel like my noble goal is to come up with a noble goal.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Right? Because I think I have one, but I haven't necessarily done the work to figure out what it is and how to verbalize it.
Yeah. So I love our friend group. We have a small friend group that we're really tight, and you're very special people. In our friend group, we should work on creating our noble goals together.
I think we already are. We just don't even know we're doing it.
Right? Yeah. So mine is to creating happy, healthy, safe kids who make the world around them better than you found it. And the noble goal is meant to like roll off your tongue, and it's a life mission statement. It points outwardly. So it points outwardly not just to benefit you, but to benefit the outside world, whether it be your little family and your circle around you in your workspace. But a noble goal is meant to be personal and professional together. And then it's meant to bring in what you want to do to make the world a better place. So it begins with an action verb. So mine is creating or helping. It's gone back and forth between those 2 words. Raising happy, healthy, safe kids, which was my noble goal right after my husband passed, as I shared with you, for my 3 little kids. Well, then it came to include a bonus daughter in Sydney, and then it came to include every child we work with at Challenge to Change, where I want to raise them to be part of META, happy, healthy, safe kids who make the world around them better than they found it, like the Dalai Lama quote we just talked about. So that's my noble goal, and it's honed over time, but it's an action. It starts with an action verb. It is all the qualities of what you want to bring to this world. It points outward, but the most important part is it will never be fully accomplished until the day you die. So I visualize, and I've said this on past podcasts, that I visualize myself as a 99-year-old woman in her bed, taking her last breath. And I hear the angels, the voices say to me, not the voices in my head, like the angel voices say, job well done. Job well done. You have accomplished your noble goal. So as we work on and hone our noble goals, our life mission statements, we can help each other as sisters to do that. But it's formed by my number 2 question, which are, what are your top 3 core values? So your noble goal also includes your top 3 core values.
Okay.
So do you know what those
I do.
are?
I
Awesome.
do. I've thought about, you've asked me this over the years, and I have thought about this. Okay. Number 1 for me is communication.
Ooh, yeah, that is so you.
That is so me. Being honest and truthful and telling your truth, but
Yes.
making sure clear is kind.
Yeah.
That has really been a huge part of my family in the last couple years, I would say. Saying what you actually mean.
Oh, and not being nice.
Nope.
Yeah.
Clear is kind.
Yes.
So that's communication is important. It also is a 98% of all disagreements come because of a communication error.
98%.
Yeah, I mean, I just made that number up.
Oh,
but,
you did.
Yeah, doesn't.
I'm sure it is,
right,
though. I'm
yeah.
sure it's pretty accurate.
But I think I heard something like that, so I'm just going to repeat that kind of garbage.
I'm going to call it a Katieism.
Katieism, yeah. So let's just call it a high 90s.
Yeah.
That it really if you look at it, it really comes down to what I'm saying is not what you're hearing. And so to always, and that comes back to my news reporting, is I was looking at different perspectives. You heard it this way and you said it this way, and they didn't necessarily, right? So always helping people figure out, this is why you're feeling like, this is why you're feeling like that. Like
something I often hear you say when I'm sharing something with you is you say, I could see how you might think that.
Really?
And I love that because that is communication, and that is seeing 3 sides. Like that's reminding someone in a subliminal way, there may be another way that it's heard or perceived.
Right.
And I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
It's
because
very
when you say
important
that,
to
it
me.
always affects me to go, yeah, got it. Noted.
And with that, my second one is I feel closely tied to that, and it's harmony.
Oh, I love it.
Yes. Harmony is super important to me. I love to be in a place where people are all feeling that they can be their honest, true
Music
self.
festivals.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All of that stuff. And so I just think I really like it when everybody gets along.
Yeah.
But when they get along in the truth.
Yeah.
Not along in
Forced.
yes, we're just going to fake it till we make it, and everybody's just going to act like they're good and happy. No, like true, honest to God harmony.
Where people straighten each other's crowns.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, she
Yeah.
just straightened her crown. I love that.
And the third one is fun.
Communication,
Harmony.
and fun.
And fun.
Oh,
Yes.
you don't
It's-
even need to say another
no.
word, but please do.
It's really, really important to me that people have fun. It really is. And I always thought that was kind of not a deep enough core emotion or feeling or value.
Right.
I always thought that was kind of like trivial or surface level, but it's not. To me, having fun, like what's the point if you're not having fun?
I agree. I
Right?
agree.
And like I said earlier, I really truly believe in this world. My job is to make sure people are having fun.
I love that.
I want everyone to be having a good time. And that comes with consequences sometimes, because it's not always like that. And there's not, the hard part for me with that too is if people aren't having fun and I'm expecting them to,
Right.
I can get frustrated like that. But that's so important to me that people are enjoying themselves
Right.
and each other.
And I do value that so much in you as a friend, is that every time I'm with you, I have fun. No matter if we're going on a run and we both hate it, like we're having fun.
Yeah.
And I really, really love that. I recently wrote a blog that talked about advice to a younger Molly. So Molly, who lost her husband 17 years ago, these are the things that I would like to tell that young Molly. And one of them was, don't take life so seriously. And I think that's why I gathered you into my life 10 years ago. And I'm like, she needs to be near me, is because I was taking life way too seriously at that time. And you just brought in this beauty of laughter and fun and harmony.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, my noble goal. Not really.
So we're getting closer to your noble goal, because I just from knowing you and honestly hearing some of these things, I could help you write that.
Please do.
Yes, and I will.
That'll be our part 2 of this podcast.
Okay.
I'm inviting myself back.
Okay, I would love that. There's so much we could talk about.
And I feel like you are going to ask me too, who's inspired me, and that.
How'd you know that was my number 3 question?
The weird part is, it's on my notes. But I wanted to tell you because you just said that the reason that you brought me into your world was to help you have more fun and not take things so seriously. The flip side of that is I needed you. I needed you big and bad, and you are someone who has deeply changed my life. And I'm not trying to sound trite because, like, of course I would say that. You're the one sitting across the table from me. But you have brought a lot of things into my world that I really, really needed.
Oh, thank you, honey. Oh.
And I appreciate that about you because I say things to people all the time. Oh, well, Molly said this, or this is what Molly does. And anybody who I say that to is like, what? Anyone who also knows you knows that it's not crap. It's it's the real deal stuff. And Molly says this, Molly does this, so that's a Mollyism. Or you have really changed a lot of facts in my life and a lot of parts of my life. And you brought a whole nother world into my world, and I needed that just as much as you needed me.
Thank you. Aw, I love you. Okay, what am I doing? Okay,
right.
I'm leading a podcast. Okay. Number 4, how are you going to continue to make the world around you better than you found it when you walk away from this podcast today? Today. You're going to leave this room. How are you going to go make the world around you better than you found it?
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I'm going to remember the meta.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that there's something below it for everyone, no matter what. And even myself. Why am I feeling this way? Why do I feel like I need to get back to the office?
Right.
Why am I feeling like I need to get to the baseball field? Why am I feeling like I have to be something to everyone?
Yeah.
And I have to be everyone's best friend? I have to remember to be my own best friend first. And that's what I'll walk away with, remembering what's below it for me, not just asking what's below it for other people. It's so important. And we all know it, but you have to be reminded.
It's so true. So it's more to meta yourself.
Yes.
More than anyone else.
Just be in check with yourself and take that time instead of rushing. What you got the next day? Get to the mom. No more of that.
Right.
It's all about taking those minutes, taking those 6 seconds to honor the pause.
The pause.
Capital T, capital P.
That's right. Capital T, capital P. The pause. Katie, thank you so much for coming on today and making my day so much better and complimenting me. I mean, that was awesome.
Same to you.
But stay tuned. Someday we will have part 2. We don't know what we're talking about yet.
Yes, we do. It's going to be my actual noble goal.
But it's going to be fun, harmonious, and it'll have great communication.
Yes.
Well, thanks, Katie. I love you.
I love you too, babe.
All right. Namaste.
Namaste.
I'll be the best version of myself, spreading kindness and peace. I'll be the best version of myself.